Hi, I'm Hallie, and my dad is wealthy. My life is full of exciting things, but my dad is mean. He never allows me to see anyone. One time, I was having my friends over. Dad saw us, started yelling and screaming at them. "Get out of my house! You're only here for the food!" My friends freaked out and left. They never came back. Then he grabbed me by my hair and slapped me in the face. "That's not your house. You do as I tell you. Don't bring anyone in here." What about my mom? My parents are divorced. Mom lives with her boyfriend. Dad doesn't want me to see her, and if I do, he will stop taking care of me. I got so sick of this situation, so I decided to rebel. I started dating a bad boy. His name was Liam. Liam was a typical bad boy. When Dad saw him, he almost passed out. Liam was unemployed, a member of a gang, always getting in fights, and he didn't have basic manners. "You are not going to date this boy, not under my roof," Dad yelled. He then slapped me in the face. "This is my home," I replied angrily. "Oh, really? Watch me." I was determined to piss him off. One night, I snuck out of the house with Liam. We spent the night roaming the streets on his motorcycle. He took me to a studio where I got a tattoo and a piercing in my nose. I knew that my dad would hate it, but I didn't care. I wanted him to suffer. However, when we got home, Liam and I were talking in front of the house when a police officer came and arrested him. I was confused. I asked the police officer, "What did he do, officer?" The officer replied, "He is disturbing the neighborhood with his motorcycle." Disturbing? Oh my God, this is definitely my dad. I went into the house to yell at him, but when I got in, a strange man came behind me and put his arms around my body and dragged me by force. I tried to fight, but he was much stronger than me. "Who is that? A thief?" I thought he was going to kidnap me. But, strangely, he took me to my room. He threw me on the bed and locked the door. What the hell was going on? Dad entered half an hour later and said sharply, "That's what you get for not listening to me. Enjoy your prison." Then he got out and locked the door. I went nuts. I got up and started banging the door. "Get me out of here!" I screamed desperately. But he never answered. 2 days went by when I understood that the strange man was a bodyguard. His name was Antonio. Dad hired to keep an eye on me. Every day the bodyguard opened the door, put all the food, and left without saying any word. I hated him at first. But then when I watched him closely, I noticed how handsome he was. The guy was fine. Like, real fine. Jesse Williams fine. I tried to speak to him, but he was cold as ice. But somehow, I started having feelings for him. I looked forward to the time he handed me food, just so I can look at his blue eyes and muscular body. 10 days later, Dad decided that it was enough. The punishment was over. He allowed me to go out, but on one condition. The bodyguard had to accompany me. To his surprise, I was fine with the whole thing. I mean, I couldn't say no to a bodyguard like that. The minute I got out, I made it my mission to date Antonio. And since he didn't want to talk to me, I thought, why not make him jealous? I wore my best, most revealing dresses whenever we went out. All the boys and men looked at me and tried to talk to me, but he never paid me any attention. My next move was to annoy the hell out of him. I stayed up late at night partying to exhaust him. I talked to guys who looked dangerous, and I yelled at him unnecessarily all the time. But he always replied, "Yes, ma'am." "No, ma'am. I'm not your ma'am. Will you look at me?" But he never did. One night, I was tired of the whole situation. I was at the bar feeling lonely. I was missing my mom so badly that I couldn't breathe. I haven't seen any of my friends for a while, too. I started drinking, uncontrollably. So when the girl sitting next to me asked if, "Could you move a little bit?" I answered, "No, I can't, you ugly monster." She threw her glass of water on me, and I slapped her in the face. We started fighting like crazy cats. Antonio had to come and take me out of the situation. I was so drunk I couldn't stand up. He held me between his arms and took me home. I was sobbing when he put me on the bed. I told him while I was crying, "Please don't leave. I feel so lonely tonight. Could you stay for a little bit?" And for the first time ever, he actually listened. He sat on a chair beside my bed, and I just kept talking. "You think I'm spoiled, but I'm just lonely. You have no idea what it is to live with a mean father like mine. He keeps me away from everyone. And you are so cold. You don't pay any attention to my feelings. I don't know what to do with you." Then I passed out. The next day, I didn't want to see anyone, so I stayed in my room. But something strange happened. When Antonio came to hand me the breakfast, He was smiling. I blinked twice to see if it was true. Yes, there on his lovely face was a big smile. Then, the day after, when I was heading to college, he bought me coffee without asking. And he wished me a beautiful day. What's with the changed attitude? Did something happen? Antonio was nicer and softer. I was happy with the change, but was he feeling sorry for me? Or was it because he really had feelings for me? I had to know. That's why I booked us dinner. I told him to wear his best outfit because we were going to a fancy hotel. I told him I had a date. He was confused, but he didn't say anything. That night, we went to a fancy restaurant. He didn't want to go in with me. He said quietly, "I'll just stay outside until you finish your dinner." And I responded, "Sit, you fool. You are my date." He was surprised. He sat down and we started talking. At the end, I was brave enough to ask him, "Why did you change suddenly? Do you have feelings for me?" He didn't answer. He just took his phone out and opened it to the gallery folder, and I saw hundreds of pictures for me in different situations. I wasn't paying any attention in any of them. "Wow," he said with a soft voice, "I loved you the minute I saw you, but I also had to keep my job." Then he added while holding my hand, "You are a beauty, and you deserve someone who would love and appreciate you for who you are." I couldn't believe that he was feeling the same way as I did. I jumped off to hug him. I felt like I just won the lottery. We got out of the restaurant and went on a long drive in the car. We had tons of things to tell each other. And then, at the end of the night, we had our first kiss. Things got better after that. Antonio and I were dating secretly. We had the best time ever, doing all these exciting things. But one time, when we were kissing in the living room, Dad walked in on us. He was furious. He screamed at both of us, "I leave you for 2 days? That's what you do?" Then he turned to me and screamed, "He is after your money, you stupid!" I yelled back at my dad, "Not everyone is like you. Not everyone thinks only about money. I love him." But Dad didn't listen to me. He just turned to Antonio and said, "Get out of here, or else I'll make sure you never find another job in your entire life." Antonio looked at me sadly. He said, "Sorry," and then left. I tried to go after him, but Dad wouldn't let me. And just like before, he locked me in the room. I cried myself to sleep that night. The next day, I decided to run. I had enough with my dad's crazy behavior. The man was despicable, who only wanted to ruin my life. I took a few necessary things and ran away. I went to see Mom. I knew the address. She lived in poor, dangerous neighborhood. Everyone was looking at me when I walked down the street. I didn't look that I belonged there in any way. She was stunned when she opened the door and saw me. She asked in shaking voice, "Hallie, what are you doing here?" I didn't say a word. I just hugged her and started crying. We went inside and I told her everything. Mom was angry. She promised me that she would protect me. She told me that she didn't come to see me because she thought that it was my desire. Dad had told her that it was me who didn't want to see her, so she just kept a distance. What a liar! Mom gave me a room. She told me I could stay at her place as long as I want. My first goal was to find Antonio, then decide what we need to do together. But when I got to his apartment, he was not there. I asked a number of his friends about him, but no one knew where he was. I also checked his favorite places, but he was nowhere to be found. Where the hell was he? Did he just disappear? I tried to call him and send him messages on his social media accounts, but he never replied. My heart was broken. I kept looking for him for weeks, but nothing came up. I finally gave up. Then Dad tried to contact me. "Come home." But all I could think of was that he was the reason Antonio and I broke up. "I will never come back and live with you. I prefer my freedom over all your money." I lived with my mom for a while. Then I started working and I applied for college. I had to become independent and take my life in my own hands. 4 years later, I was working in the office talking to people when suddenly Antonio walked into the room. I couldn't believe my eyes. What was he doing here? I worked in a company that hires bodyguards for famous people, and we had a party that night for all the company's employees. Was he my coworker for all this time? One of the girls who worked with me noticed that I was looking at Antonio, looking shocked. She told me, "Oh, I see you are checking one of the hottest bodyguards we have. But relax, the guy is taken." I was taken aback. I immediately asked her, "What do you mean by that?" The girl responded, "The guy is married." Duh. He has been with his wife for almost 8 years now. What? 8 years? Does that mean that he was cheating on his wife with me? And did I run away from my dad and ditch all that rich lifestyle for a douchebag like him? I was furious. I felt like some kind of stupid girl. Then our eyes met. He went pale, like he had just seen a ghost. He didn't even try to talk to me. He knew I discovered his lies. But I got my revenge. As the head manager, I assigned him to our worst, stingiest client, a 72-year-old gay man who likes young men. I'm sure he'll love him properly now.